Pressure is a game I've always had a passing interest in. Ever since it released in July of last year, I've played it on and off. And while I enjoyed the concept and the characters, I never really got too attached to the game. Except for Sebastian and Painter, I love those guys. Despite this, I've been keeping my eye on the game, hoping they'll be adding things that will help it stand out so much more. And with the release of the Worst Await Part 1 update, I found myself growing more and more interested in what Pressure had to offer. I literally could not escape the game for days. All over my social media were videos of the new update, ranging from character interactions, new items, and...
Okay, you've made your point. I'll leave you alone. I'll leave you be. I'll stop.
There's so much I want to talk about in this new update, but as I drafted script after script, I realized that my usual style of giving a synopsis alongside my own commentary about what I think works and doesn't won't really work for a game that's very RNG based. So why not take this as an opportunity to try something new, as I'll be splitting this video into 3 separate parts. Part 1 will focus on Pressure itself, how the game works, the enemies, items, mechanics, secrets, lore, and a winning run. Part 2 will focus on that moment. And Part 3 will go over any extra content Pressure has released since I last played it in late 2024. So without any further ado, let's get started, shall we? 2025. You are an inmate of a high security prison. Your crimes are irrelevant. Whether or not you were falsely charged is irrelevant. You have served 93 days of your 20-year sentence. Today, 3 men from the Urban Shade Corporation, being escorted by heavily armed guards, arrived at the prison. They were searching for draftees to help them retrieve a crystal of sorts, a highly important asset they were unable to secure during a major security breach in one of their facilities. They stated that the risk of death was high, but whoever could retrieve the asset and return it to them would be pardoned, released with a clear record, and receive in cash. Many of your fellow inmates signed up. You signed up as well. You are expendable. You are not expected to return. These are the first words you see upon entering Pressure, and it immediately sets up not only the state of the world we're about to explore, but also our role in it. If a company like Urban Shade can just waltz into prisons and take prisoners who aren't even on death row into a facility they will most likely die in, they must have a lot of power and a complete lack of morals. As stated, our job is to travel through 100 doors, give or take, and attempt to make our way through the black site in order to reach the crystal without dying. Now, there's plenty to talk about gameplay wise, so I'm going to be mix and matching my first few runs to try and cover as much as I can, and then talk about the main ending of the game. The majority of this segment will probably just end up being me talking about the entities, or at least most of them, because I know there are a few I'm yet to encounter. Stepping off the submarine for the first time, the PA system springs to life, and we're told that while our primary objective is to reach the crystal, we're also encouraged to pick up any research we find along the way. This will act as the main currency of the game, allowing you to buy items later in the run. And being the kleptomaniac I am, I usually just collect everything in sight because this also gives you a bonus on Chromer, the outsider run currency you get after every run, that allows you to buy revives and new diving suits. Which, it's nice to see a game not trying to constantly rip the Robux out of my wallet and only giving me the option when I'm desperate enough. Like, I've spent an embarrassing amount of Robux on revives, you don't even know. This environment is also one of the 5 I've discovered while playing the game, with each dock having its own unique layout, which really adds to the feeling that we're just one expendable in a sea of possibly thousands of desperate prisoners just looking for an out. Further helped by the sounds of entities and gunfire that will play randomly from rooms just out of reach as other expendables fight for their lives. Trying to leave, you'll notice that the first door is locked, needing a keycard or a code, requiring us to turn the rooms inside out in order to find the code, which can range from a piece of paper with a random string of numbers we need to enter, or a simple keycard that we hold up to the door and it opens. And while I'm not too good at finding these myself, the game is kind enough to play a wind chime sound after a while at the keycard's location, and when you're right next to it you can hear a static sound. This is helpful for most players, and for me it continues to send me on wild goose chases throughout each side room trying to find where the hell this sound is coming from, because what do you mean it's in this drawer when the sound is coming from the room across? Once the door is open, one of the many anticipation tracks will play, which can range from songs of strength and hopefulness to a somber calm before the storm, with my personal favorite of these being the first new song I heard after the update, titled Why Bother? It's one of the more somber and peaceful anticipation tracks that I feel holds a lot of weight and context. Because why would we bother? From our perspective, we just keep going through hell only to die over and over. And even if we get the crystal, what next? As we'll find out later, we're stuck down here in a loop, forced to always come back in that sub and make the journey over and over again. Everyone else came down here to complete a simple job, but the player is forced to accept that they will never see the light of day again. We're trapped in this game with no way out, so the song asks the question, why bother? This is just one of the tracks that I adore from Pressure, and honestly every bit of music that's been made for this game is top tier. I've been listening to that soundtrack non-stop while editing this video, and it's probably up there with Deltarune, Undertale, Poppy, and even Subnautica for me. Each song feels so distinct and so unnerving in its own way, with every song being so carefully crafted to invoke so many feelings as you discover the secrets of what Urban Shade is hiding. After roughly 10-ish doors, the music will slowly fade out as we're introduced to the first entity group of this game, the Angler and its variants. The base Angler is your standard rush enemy. When they spawn, all the lights in the black site will flicker, and they begin quickly moving through rooms, emitting a low screaming noise and requiring the player to either hide in a locker or out of sight and away from its pass. As the Angler passes through, it will shatter any light sources, leaving the room in complete darkness. This is both a blessing and a curse, however, as the Angler can sometimes lead you to the correct door to use so you don't get beat up, but it can also start spawning some other entities I'll get into later. As mentioned, Angler also has a bunch of variants, 6 of them in fact, including Pinky, Frogger, Chainsmoker, Blitz, Pandemonium, and the Multi-Monster. Pinky does basically the same thing as the base Angler, except they don't break any lights or cause them to flicker, meaning your only indication that they're coming will be the sounds they make. Frogger moves quickly in and out of the room you're in before doubling back to catch you off guard, requiring you to hop out of the locker once they leave and back in when they circle back. Chainsmoker is the slowest of the bunch, leaving a trail of green smog behind. This smoke increases the player's claustrophobia, which is the fear of being trapped in an enclosed space, and is used to explain the locker timer mechanic, which when reaching 0, boots you out of the locker and prevents you from re-entering for a short period of time, with the timer decreasing as the game progresses. Meaning if you've been hiding for too long and Chainsmoker appears, it's basically game over, as they send you to Pandora's box and when it opens, you just die. So you need to time things just right so the Chainsmoker can pass through and then you can exit the locker. Blitz will flicker the lights twice, and it's the fastest of the bunch. That's all they've really got going for them. Pandemonium, who yes, technically is an Angler variant, but gets included here because it's just easier this way, and the same applies for the Multi-Monster. Once hidden in a locker, Pandemonium forces you to partake in a minigame, where you need to keep this meter full as Pandemonium shakes the locker, sending your cursor flying, trying to get you out. This is all accompanied by their own theme song, so you know they mean business. And after roughly 40 seconds, Pandemonium will decide it's done playing and run off, allowing you to leave. Finally, the Multi-Monster, the rarest of the group. They will have a little red message at the bottom of the screen to warn you before immediately bolting through the room, killing anyone who's not in a locker. Which they've actually spawned in one of my runs, but I missed them because I was getting smacked around by a good person. So better luck next time, I suppose. Just be careful when you're picking what locker to hide in, as some are home to the puddles of void mass. You can tell when one is in there by looking through the grates for a set of eyes, with the most common of these being purple, but they can also be red, green, or yellow. Entering a locker while a void mass is inside will result in an instant game over while playing solo as it snatches you into the Shadow Realm, or a slow death in multiplayer unless a teammate manages to pull you out. and I might as well say it here, but all of the artwork in this game is phenomenal. It all looks fantastic. Every piece is amazing. I'm just utterly in love with it. Especially for the anglers, they're just so good, and the many achievement icons, like, it all looks great, especially the games icon. Once the anglers have passed and you exit your locker, your current room will most likely be pitch black, unless you got Pinky who sat there just letting the gang down. These dark rooms have a chance to spawn another set of entities, the Squiddles. These little guys prevent you from using any light source, bar the black light and the flash beacon. If you get too close to them or shine a light on them, their faces will display anything ranging from original art to 2010 scary faces or memes, to past respect for whatever reason. If you don't back up in time or turn off the light, they will jump you like Foxy in FNAF 3 and take a chunk of your HP. They're pretty simple to deal with, just don't use your light and be careful and you'll be grand. Next up is my biggest op, the Infestation. This little shit will force you to look at it, dealing a massive amount of damage the longer you stare. Usually they're pretty easy to deal with, unless you're like me and decide to flashbang them with the flash beacon, which will cause them to glow red and eventually glow purple, making their pull stronger and deal more damage for the rest of the run. But in return you get a full heal, which if you ask me is a pretty good trade. If you have an angered infestation, they will usually run off once you enter another room. If you have, however, they will appear in every single room that has a window for the rest of the run. People have asked me why I do this to myself, and I just tell them that the dopamine is infectious. Now, quickfire round for a few entities that don't have much going on, but you will encounter. The good people are flesh monsters that spawn behind false doors, created by Painter, who I'll get to in a little bit. Your best way to tell if one is behind a door is to go right up against the wall and listen for breathing. If there isn't any, you're free to go forward. If there is breathing, however, there is a good chance that one of them is waiting behind that door. And I say good chance because you can sometimes be tricked by the ambience, and in that case look for sparks coming off of the signs. Painter is also taking control of the security system on the black site, and will attempt to shoot you using the turrets. Just stay out of sight and find the power lever to flick them off and move forward. The wall dwellers are stalker entities who will attempt to sneak up on you and snap your neck. If you look at them, they will run away, but they won't despawn, meaning you need to keep looking behind you in case they come back. If you spot them when an angler is attacking, however, the angler will kill it on its way past, leaving its corpse behind for you to eat and gain permanent regen. The candle bearers are slow-moving weeping angel-like entities, and I say like because they only stop moving when a light is shined on them. These guys spawn in large dark storage rooms, with most of them requiring a keycard. Your best bet is to keep a code breaker on you at all times to quickly skip past all that. If not, good luck, soldier. Now, this being a roguelike or Doors-like, you are most likely gonna die at some point in your run. But if you do, you can always come back using a revive token you brought with Cromer. If you come back this way, Lady Death will fish you up and allow you to continue your run. And sadly, I can't say what I'd normally say about this because my parents watch my videos. If you die again, however, and pay Robux to respawn, Lady Death won't be too happy and will beat you up to like free HP, give you a heal, and then let you continue. But you cannot respawn after that, that is game over. If you try and respawn again, nuh-uh. As stated earlier, there are a lot of entities that the base game has to offer, and if I were to explain each and every single one of them, we'd be here for a while. So those are the most common ones you'll encounter on your journey. And if you manage to survive all of that, you'll reach door 60-ish, and you'll meet one of the mid-game mini-bosses, which I'll go over individually. The first one starts in a tram station, where we power it up and the Navi brings us towards an area pretty much every pressure fan will be familiar with. Before the Worst Await update, this segment will always spawn at door 50, and while it's still in the game, it now spawns at a much lower chance compared to the other two, preferring to spawn near the end of the game. The Navi AI brings us towards the lunar docks, and we're told that a Voltus Luminera or searchlight is in the area, but due to a certain someone referred to as a parasite, they cannot close the external bulkhead, forcing us to avoid the searchlights by any means. The searchlights are massive fish with like actual human hooks hanging off from its body, and it leaves so much to my imagination. Like, this design is by far my favorite, because if it was just one of these things, you'd think, oh yeah, that's just Urban Shade doing an experiment. But as we find out later, there are about 4 or 5 of them, which means that these are a species. So what happened for them to develop actual like human hooks off of their bodies to get food? Like, was this urban shade or was this biological? There's so many questions here. Still, besides that, in this segment you need to run around and complete Dead by Daylight generators to open a door. While doing these generators, however, remember to keep an eye on where the searchlight is so you don't get hooked. Once its light lands on you, you have 4 very short chances to get under a hiding spot, whether that be a locker or a crate. But if your only option is a pallet, make sure to hide there before the searchlight comes over you, or it will just straight up break the pallet and kill you regardless. Next up is the Jet Suit Evaluation course. Here we get a parkour suit and have to just run around doing double jumps, sliding under gaps, wall running, and dashing through glass. And I'd honestly play a game that was just based around this mechanic for hours. I love it. And once we complete a short tutorial, we reach the actual course. And usually the Navii would turn on the firewall to encourage trainees to get a move on, but due to the sensitive nature of our mission, they will be keeping it disabled. Painter, however, decides nah and turns it on anyway, forcing us to keep moving forward or risk being cooked to death. And while I love this section just mechanically, the environments can be really finicky and confusing on where you're actually meant to go. I know my first couple of times I just kept getting confused and stuck on where exactly I was going, and by the time I figured it out, it was already too late. But other than that, once everything works out and you actually get to play it, it is a really fun challenge that keeps you on the edge of your seat, because like that firewall is coming, it's coming for you. And finally, the last of these chases is the Abomination. Here, we're given a sea glide from Subnautica, and we have to travel through underwater tunnels while dodging fans, and being chased by this massive fish, as we weave through landmines and under giant mechs, all while avoiding the creature's lunges. Just remember to stick to the green lights in these open segments, as if you stray, you not only risk the parasites trying to kill you, but the creature catching up and killing you regardless. But if all goes well, we'll eventually find an opening at the end of the tunnel and crash onto the floor, with the Abomination tumbling down below. And this is my favorite of the 3 segments. The controls are very responsive, the map design is clear, and it's got a fantastic soundtrack. But it also gives me the excuse to talk about my favorite room type, the underwater segments, because it just feels so peaceful to swim through the destroyed ruins of the Black Site, being able to stay down there as long as it takes, and being able to just see this once lively environment just desolate. And while that is just like most of the game, the underwater part just adds so much to it in my opinion. And while I would love more segments like this, I understand why they're very limited, because it allows each time we actually get to go out underwater feel like something special, and I can appreciate that. And once all is said and done, you get through any of these chases, you can continue forward finding someone very special just a few rooms ahead.
Welcome, welcome! Don't be afraid, I'm not gonna hurt you, despite what you have seen, heard, and or been told. My name is Sebastian, your only friend.
That's right people, the reason half of you watching this video even clicked Mr. Sebastian Solus himself. One of the few friendly faces we find down here. Sebastian acts as our shopkeeper and death screen, where he shares information on entities when we die to them, slowly revealing more and more the more we die. Jesus Christ, my time's gonna say more in this sentence. You can also find documents out in the wild, which Sebastian will quickly snatch out of your hands. You can later view these in the lobby in the Monsters and Hazards, Urban Shade, and Nost areas. Sebastian within the Black Site runs a little makeshift shop, and there's a lot going on in here. First off is the actual items for sale. Sebastian can pretty much sell you any item in the game. Flashlights, hand cranks, black lights, illegal performance enhancing drugs, code breakers, you name it, the fishman's probably got it. All for the price of any research you collected on your journey thus far. But you can also purchase his wares using Cromer in the pre-game sub, where he'll drop them off for you at the start of the run, with the more items unlocking the more you play the game. However, this will be your one and only chance to get items easily during a run, so make sure you're loaded when you get here. Notably, there are also a few items Sebastian doesn't sell in this shop, including the imaginary friend remote mainly because it pisses him off. When you click the big red button, because why wouldn't you, you're infected with some kind of parasite that takes the form of this red thingy. Ugh. The imaginary friend and her blue counterpart will whisper in your ear for the rest of the run, and while I find them quite charming, Sebastian on the other hand...
That's enough! The other word out of either of you, and I'll blow your host's head clean off!
There's also this radio in the corner of his shop, and when we tune it, we learn that Sebastian is a man on the outside, who is on his way to extract both him and someone else, presumably Painter, as we see them both at the dock at the end of the game. If you unscramble it, however, Sebastian will get pissed off at you, so it's best to just take what you need and leave at this point. Now, I will be going over these two in part 2 of the video, but all you really need to know for now is if you buy this document for 1000 research, you can learn a lot about Sebastian's backstory, of a wrongfully imprisoned man who Urban Shade took and ran genetic experiments on, twisting his body into what it is today. And this would lead Sebastian to break out and cause all the destruction and chaos in the Black Site, which can be seen on the displays dotted around the facility, documenting his past destruction before the Expendables program was activated. Sebastian also has the key card we need to leave, so his shop is mandatory for progression. And I mean, why wouldn't you want to come talk to Seb? He's a great character. Everyone already praises him, but Gianni Matrigoni, I'm pretty sure I butchered that, but whatever, does an amazing job of voice acting Sebastian. And every other character I've seen him play, it is just wonderful. Gianni and the scriptwriters managed to make every encounter with Sebastian all the more memorable, especially after the update, but again, that's for later. I also love just how interactive Sebastian is with the player, having commentary when we buy items and even getting pissed off the player decides to mess around and find out. Because despite being a friendly face, he's not opposed to putting a bullet in you, even if you're a ghost.
Face the wrath of my ghost-killing bullets! I gotta give it to Urban Shade. They really will make anything.
Moving on, I found this room where a choir could be heard singing, and if I got too close, you'd hear a quick shush before the door opens to reveal this thing. This is one of the many rare rooms you can encounter and is personally one of my favorites. The mannequins are all posed to either be looking at you casually or ready to jump out at a moment's notice. Other notable rare rooms I found included the bathrooms, the Navii room, which is honestly so grand and cool to explore, these fiery fog rooms you need to replenish your oxygen every so often, and my wife, which holds a headless skinned corpse, with our character insisting it's their wife. We also get a document on it, which my SCP fans will recognize this thing as being a sort of mimetic of sorts, that makes people see it as their wife. So that's pretty interesting. On the topic of rooms, there's also a variety of room types you can find. A couple of my favorites include the admin area, where you can see the inner workings of Urban Shade, the oxygen gardens, where the Divine live, the dredge, but I really have a love-hate relationship with it because this thing, it just makes me so uncomfortable. Ugh. And finally, Heavy Containment, which is home to a lot of weird items and entities that Urban Shade has in containment. Unluckily for me, however, I've only found Heavy Containment once since the update dropped, so either it's become really rare or I'm just really unlucky. Take your pick, we all know how Devil went. But this all really helps keep the game replayable and enjoyable, with the possibility of a room you've never seen before being right around the corner, and it's an absolute treat finding them all. Especially the ones that have documents attached to them, I just love sitting down and reading through all of them. Once you reach around door 30, you'll do another mini-box segment, but past door 27, you're guaranteed to reach a very special room.
There's a hostile program ahead of you that needs to be taken out of commission, but only if you're able to. It's been a real pain ever since something rigged it up to the Black Site systems. Smack its screen maybe, or just unplug it. This task is secondary to your main objective, but it is still encouraged.
Ooh, a visitor! I don't get those often, especially recently. What brings you here?
Don't mind if I do.
Wait a second. Oh, I wasn't expecting you to get here so soon. Okay. Now, before you get mad, let me explain. I don't hate you. Promise. It's nothing personal. I'm just trying to sidetrack you a bit before...
Hey, kid, who are you talking to?
Oh, Sebastian! Hey! I think this is the person you were talking about earlier.
Oh, that one?
Yeah, they seem kind of lost.
Well, they aren't exactly the sharpest Urban Shade can offer. Well, I just wanted to drop in to make sure you're doing alright. I'll call you back if I need your help.
Okay, bye. See you later.
See you, kid.
Yeah, they seem kind of lost.
For this run, there's not much to do here, but keep this interaction in mind for later. This will be on the test. But if nothing else goes wrong, you'll finally reach the crystal room. And after flipping a lever and unsealing the crystal, we transfer it to our container, killing the power and alerting every entity to our location, with the soundtrack here being aptly named the part of the game where we throw everything at you, as we enter the ridge. This is the final challenge of the game, where every main entity I've covered can spawn, made even harder by the lack of lights, meaning there's always going to be squiddles and the angular variants can sneak up on you much easier. Your best chance of survival is to move quickly and periodically stop at lockers and listen for any sounds. I recommend doing this every 2 rooms or so, and even if you think it wasn't actually an angler, stop and wait at a locker because everything down here is hyper aggressive and you will be constantly pursued. Just be patient getting into lockers because your phobia will be at its worst here, meaning you barely have any time. Painter and Sebastian will also be setting traps in the area, meaning you'll have to deal with landmines, trip mines, and the new one, music, which will make the bomb inside your body begin to beep rapidly. Don't panic, just keep moving forward and eventually the ticking will stop. Other than that, just keep doing all the usual things you would to fend everything off. Look away from infestation, keep an eye behind you in case a wall dweller tries to kill you, and just keep going. And if you do everything right, you'll make it out with a ridge. But Urban Shade isn't quite done with you yet.
The backup power is on, and the PA system is back online. You're currently in one of the ridge's airlocks. Outside, there's a generator shaft powering a cluster of our external repellent cannons dug into the ocean's floor. However, several transformers routing power through them are damaged, and they need to be fixed. There's a diving mask with a built-in walkie-talkie hanging on the wall. Put it on, and enter the airlock. I'll be giving you guidance on what to do going forward.
And with really no other choice, we do just that, heading into the airlock and swimming out towards the generators, as we're informed that the searchlights are being attracted by Lucy's light, thinking it's one of their own pointing towards food, as the song builds until we finally see one of them swim above us as the finale begins. Here we need to swim around and activate 7 generators, which would be pretty simple with just one searchlight swimming around, but once you complete a 3rd generator, another one spawns. And on the 5th generator, a 3rd one will spawn, making the surface effectively a death trap as they all swarm together, turning into one big waiting game as you struggle to complete the last 2 generators. But upon finally completing them, you need to swim to the middle and activate the cannons. But as our luck would have it, the cannons are sending error signals, so we need to head towards a beacon as the cannons light up the deep ocean, and flick some levers, all while the searchlights circle above. And this segment, while simple enough, can be a real pain because half the time you're just waiting for all 3 of them in a conga line to go past you, and you're barely making enough progress each time you move, or you're just accidentally being cooked alive by the heat vents when you try and reach the next lever. Which you have to do 4 times in a row with no heals because you're underwater, why would a medkit work? And this can be really annoying if you don't have something like a wall dweller's corpse give you regen. I know I barely made it out there with 9 HP on my first time around. Still, we pull the levers, open a tunnel to escape, and as we swim, a searchlight is in hot pursuit, heading to cut us off. Until Lucy slams its foot on top of it, allowing us to escape, with Urban Shade just as confused as the player as to why the massive kaiju robot would do that. And can I just say, it's such a cool visual to just see Lucy out there in the void once you get back. Just looking through that window at the sheer size of her is such a haunting visual. But with that said, we're finally free. With the crystal in hand, we make our way towards the extraction point, finding a submarine waiting for us as we head back towards the surface.
Please exit the submarine in a calm and orderly fashion.
Once those sub doors open, we're immediately met with heavily armed guards telling us to hand them the crystal. When we give it to them, they direct us towards the head of Urban Shade, who has definitely seen better days, as he uses the Navi to talk to his employees and uses the employees to move his body. Once the crystal is secured, we're guided towards a waiting room, where we're given a change of clothes. But as we wait, we hear the guards around us talking about the other expendables and talking about us behind our back, joking that we must have been in some kind of loop, getting to try over and over again with death allowing us to revive. But before they can finish, the player stands up and leaves. Outside, a car is waiting for us, as we hop in and are taken through a forest filled with fog and snow. During the drive, the guards get a message from Urban Shade to read out to us.
Mr. Shade extends his personal gratitude to you. Prisoner's name. Hey, dude, they didn't even bother getting their name. Anyway, for your performance, your criminal record has been expunged. Funds have been deposited into your bank account under the guise of compensation for wrongful imprisonment. A news article will be fabricated, published, and shared to rehabilitate your reputation within your local community. Once again, Urban Shade would like to thank you for your cooperation. Hear that, buddy? You're officially in the clear. Oh, we're all so proud of you.
We're then dropped off at an airport, ready to go home. And as we leave, the guard tells us to not say a word about what we saw, because it's not like anyone would believe us anyway. And with one single door slam, pressure comes to a close. This ending paints Urban Shade as a very morally corrupt company, if that wasn't obvious with the Expendables program and like every other thing they've done. Unlike the SCP Foundation has used a D-class however, this company really doesn't give two craps about you. They don't even attempt to be somewhat friendly with us, just talking shit, pushing us around and making fun of us, seemingly lacking any ethics or humanitarian goals in service of using these anomalies for their own gain. In a way, they remind me more of the Chaos Insurgency from again SCP lore. I know, I'm a nerd, we can move on. But that's pretty much it for the gameplay of Pressure. Obviously there's a lot I didn't cover and a lot more to find, but this hits the main points that most players will experience during their time in the new update. And it has very quickly turned me from lukewarm about Pressure to seeing it as one of the best gameplay experiences, Roblox or otherwise, I've had in a long time. Over the course of the 2 days for writing the script, I poured 11 hours into the game, with each run taking about 45 minutes, and winning runs taking about an hour and a half, give or take. But this addiction wouldn't be even feasible without the second part of this video, that being the characters of Sebastian and Painter. These two characters are my absolute favorite in all of fiction. And you can fight me on that, but I'm the one making the video, so I just instantly win. I think it's only fitting to start with the man himself, Sebastian. Intrinsically, the player trusts him from the get-go. He's our shopkeeper and lore teller, giving us all the information we need to survive the Black Site. He's charismatic, funny, and overall helpful in our attempts. Or at least, that's how he presents himself. Because Sebastian has no issue killing you right there and then, and the only reason he doesn't is because his hands are tied. As much as Sebastian would like to and does at some points rip us limb from limb, he knows it's futile due to Mr. Lope, who, as a character, is an enigma in Pressure, acting as a sort of game master or god, but only appearing when absolutely necessary for everything to run according to the script. If that be dragging a player who's falling behind back to the group, or giving Sebastian a document and telling him how much he can tell us, with him even being spotted behind Sebastian a couple of times. And we know he's employed Sebastian to help the Expendable through their journey, providing them with both safety and items. And for a while, that's all we had for Sebastian outside of his backstory. That was until the Worst Away update, where Sebastian and Painter can interact through walkie-talkies. And depending on whose room you're in, different dialogue will play. Specifically focusing on Sebastian's side, we get these really cute interactions between him and Painter, where they discuss a variety of things. Whether that be a sea bunny Sebastian found, or Painter worrying about Sebastian's health after being up for so long, and even wanting to paint a picture for Sebastian once they escape. Some of my favorite interactions, however, include Painter having a full-on breakdown about not being able to remember his creator's face, name, or anything, with Sebastian comforting him and telling him that everything will be okay, and another where Painter straight up asks if he's a good person, to which Sebastian tells him that they were both forced in these positions, and that Painter survived when the world came crashing down around him.
I've led so many people to their death. I can't.
Painter, listen to me. You never asked for this. You're just someone trying to persist in the unimaginable circumstances they placed you in. And when the world came crashing down all around you, instead of letting yourself be crushed, you held up the rubble. You survived. Surviving doesn't make you a bad person.
God, I fucking love these two. I'm not crying over pixels, you are, okay? I love these two. Oh my god. There's a real brotherly vibe between the two that makes you root for both of them escaping at the end of the game, and adds so much needed depth to both Sebastian and Painter, which segues nicely into the only acceptable AI himself. Painter is a menace, a pain in the ass, or a sympathetic, lovable guy, with my experiences with him ranging from, "Aw, the sweet baby," to "I will fucking murder you." And with the worst away update, yeah, I'm regretting some words now. But before we can talk about that, I really want to take a look at Painter. I mean, there's a reason he's trying to attack us, full well knowing we're not a threat. And the fact is, he finds it entertaining. Sure, he doesn't want us to die most of the time. In fact, he wants us to be sympathetic to him and help them. But trapping us with infestation or shooting us is entertainment to him. A distraction while he waits for Sebastian to come and save him. And when we finally get to his room, it's just some more of the same. We hear Sebastian and Painter talking to one another, with Sebastian requesting Painter's help accessing intercoms or vents, and Painter worrying about Sebastian when he hears gunshots coming through the walkie. And while there's not much depth to these conversations, Sebastian's room more than makes up for it. And once all is said and done, and you've grown to care for these characters and want to help them in their revolution, so when the option to rescue Painter shows up, you take it.
Okay. You've made your point. I'll leave you alone. I'll leave you be. I'll stop.
What was that noise? Kid, you okay?
This is a site-wide announcement. I am happy to report that the parasite messing with my systems has been neutralized, and operations are now at an acceptable level. The internal defense system, as well as any other previously hijacked systems, will no longer pose a threat to all personnel.
I'm coming over. Hang tight.
Yeah, so I just got fucking baited. One thing I want to comment on before even talking about that, and slightly talking about it, is the music that plays in Painter's room. There are two tracks. While Painter's alive and drawing with his brother on the line, the song is titled "I Dream of Dreaming," because Painter is real. He believes he's real, a real person deserving of love. And what's more real than dreams? The song has so much joy and whimsy to it. It feels like a child playing with crayons, an expression of creativity so pure and untapped that it's unbound by the page. A perfect harmony building to their inevitable escape. But once Painter is gone and Sebastian begins hunting the player, the music distorts suddenly to an unsettling and uneasy tone, like we did something wrong, and in a sense, we did. This was never meant to happen, as just a few rooms later, we can still hear Sebastian finding Painter's body. We can hear his cries, his despair over seeing the body of his friend. But we think we've gotten away, and we continue forward like nothing's happened. As we make our way through the ridge, and the player hesitates, hearing something in the distance, only for Sebastian to burst through the doors.
You! You could have had everything you ever wanted. Everything I ever wanted. And you still went out of your way to take everything I had left in the process. You entitled brat. You expect me to sit idly by and keep smiling as if nothing ever happened? Oh, I'm smiling, all right. Grinning ear to ear. Don't even start with that following order, schlock. You knew what you were doing all too well. Sure took your sweet time. Enjoyed every last second of it. Good. Excellent, even. I'll merely return the favor. And you bet I'll be enjoying every last moment of this. The best part? I get to do this over and over again. You'll come back, I'll know, and I'll be waiting. You have no one to blame but yourself. You're in a hell of your own making, and you're never getting out! What? What is it this time?
You will forget. They will all forget. You serve a purpose greater than you realize. Stick to the script. This doesn't count as a win. The timeline was broken, and once Painter is dead, the run is. We die so close to our goal due to our attempts to help, to change something fundamental to this world. As the achievement reveals, we did take Painter with him, we have his hard drive on our person, but that's not how it's supposed to go. Sebastian abandons his post and takes revenge on what he believes is the murderer of his brother. His one comfort in this hellscape, and the only one who wins is the loop itself, with Lope disintegrating Sebastian as his screens become distorted and glitchy. A haunting visual and sound has been replaying in my head over and over. But in an instant, we're back on that sub. Sebastian's back to normal, Painter's his old self. In a flash, none of it even happened. But that doesn't mean it wasn't real. We get to see a side of Sebastian here, one new and yet all too familiar. He's angry, not thinking straight, and accusing us of taking our time killing Painter, enjoying every last second of it. And I think I can speak for almost everyone when I say that's not true, at least from our perspective. I think this ending highlights more of a Deltarune situation. We may be in control of the character, but they ultimately make the choices. Sure, we tell them where to go, how to move, what to say, but when given autonomy like that, you best believe they're gonna take their sweet time killing a creature that shot them dead over and over and over again. This ending, these characters are so complex and lovable that I could go on for hours, but those are my main points. This is an ending that gives so many more questions than answers. Like, why would Lope let us take Painter in the first place? Why would he let us get this far only to let Sebastian kill us and then interfere? What's his deal anyways? This was all to create a good gameplay experience, and does Painter have so much weight on the loop that his death causes the timeline to be effectively doomed? There's so much here that I hope gets revealed in the next few updates, but for the time being, this is where I'm gonna leave it, as there's still 2 more things I want to check out. In the time the Pressure has been released, they've added a couple of new game modes on top of the usual Black Site mission. This includes the Hunted, which takes place just before the Expendables get here, with the player working their way towards the docks, making it a safe zone for the submarines to emerge. Then there's the Raveyard, added for Halloween last year, where Urban Shade, unable to get a hold of their usual team, activates the Expendables program once again to go and shut down the Raveyard until next year. And finally, Endless Mode, which starts you in a crashed submarine with no connection to the Navi AI, leaving you to wander the Black Site endlessly. These free game modes can all be found just off to the side of where you spawn, and also have entrances dotted around in other areas. And while I will very clearly have my favorites, they all still add some fun and unique challenges on top of the usual pressure formula. So let's start with the one that actually scared me the most, that being The Hunted. The Hunted is only 40 doors compared to the usual 100, with the player being provided with an infinite use flashlight and flash beacon, with the latter being the only truly useful item for this run. As previously mentioned, we're told we need to travel through the Outskirts, a low-risk area that's currently under construction to set up a staging point for the Expendables. And for the first two rooms, this holds up. It's really just us walking through a few familiar areas and some more decrepit ones. Until we reach door 37, with the door opening by itself to reveal something new entering the room, before stopping entirely. This is the Crooked, and in my opinion is the best designed character in the entire game. Their appearance alone tells you nearly everything you need to know about them. Their clothes are stretched and ripped but very clearly belong to someone working at Urban Shade, sporting both their logo and name across their back. We also see a parasite that attaches itself to the creature's head, presumably reanimating the corpse, as according to its document, this seems to be the revivery parasite in its stage 3 form, with Urban Shade wanting this thing killed and to stay dead before it can reach the cocoon stage at stage 4, and if it manages to reach stage 5, they just plan on nuking the site. So that just immediately sets up what we're dealing with. The Crooked also seems to be toying with the player like it's some sort of game. It only moves when unobserved, and even when it could just kill us, it only smacks us to the ground and helps us up afterwards, even taking the time to dust us off and giving us a few seconds to run. And when the player has to do something like unlock a door, the Crooked will stand to the side and wait until that's done before resuming the chase. Which is so haunting just to turn my side and see him just chilling there, like what are you doing, bro? If it falls too far behind, or just decides to, the Crooked will vanish into thin air, which leads to them jumping down from the vents, which has scared the hell out of me on more than one occasion. The Crooked is a continuous threat throughout the Hunted game mode, with the player needing to maintain distance while staying alert of the other two threats that can spawn from this point onward. First of which is Rebarb, an entity with a very similar description to SCP-173, being made of concrete and rebar in a slightly humanoid way. Unlike 173 however, they also possess organic parts like an eyeball and blood across their body. This is because the entity itself is actually this small eyeball part in its head, which is capable of controlling inanimate objects, actively seeking material it can use to construct the body. When spotted, the creature will roar and begin charging at you, attacking the player for 40 HP before we flashbang them and they run off. You can also just avoid this entirely by using your flash beacon when they come at you, but this can be a bit buggy with the entity just not reacting at all sometimes, leading to a very undeserved attack, so it's 50-50. And our final entity of the Hunted is Pipsqueak, which just looks like a deformed pandemonium really. When they spawn, the lights won't flicker, and instead, the Crooked will hide inside of a locker, cueing the player to hide as well. And while there are a few safe areas where you don't need to hide in a locker, Pipsqueak is incredibly fast and sweeps almost the entirety of rooms before moving on, so it's best to just find a locker ASAP. Other than that, there is not much else known about them, with Mr. Lope once again limiting what Sebastian can show. And this is actually because in universe, Urban Shade hasn't been able to capture Pipsqueak yet. So no capture, no file. The Hunted also takes advantage of an area I think was very underused in the main game, because these under construction areas felt so unique while I was playing the game, like I felt I would find something new here. So playing the Hunted and having this being the main environment run around in, with all the entities fitting it so well, was just really fun. So with that said, the Hunted is my overall favorite of these three game modes, despite it having the least amount of content. It just feels so unique, so fun, and absolutely terrifying. Overall, it's a 9 out of 10. It's a great little challenge with some fun and unique entities, only held back by tiny nitpicks and mechanics rarely not working as intended. But next up is the Graveyard, a once in a year event hosted in Scotland where only those lacking skin can enter and enjoy the party. And this reason's so dumb, but the party is creating a lot of noise, so Urban Shade in response to noise complaints sends us to go and shut down the party until it inevitably reappears next year. But almost immediately, someone blocks our pass.
Hopefully this guy won't bother you. Just make your way past him.
Sorry lad, You're not getting in here with that state you're in. Come back when you've lost your skin. Where do you think you are, Wednesday?
Now, this chase, in all honesty, is pretty good. It feels balanced most of the time, and is overall a great introduction. But I have two major complaints that affect the entirety of the Graveyard as a whole, but are very apparent here. First off is the sea bunnies. You've probably seen me hold or throw them in a few clips, but since the Graveyard hasn't been updated since they were added, it leads to the sea bunnies apparently being counted as a player, so the entities will just end up attacking the sea bunny and hitting the player, which can lead to situations like this, making the pass that I paid for pay to lose. My second issue, which is really a nitpick but I'm Australian so I get to complain about it, is the servers. I get it's a small game mode, so obviously there's not going to be a lot of resources going to it, but with how chase dependent and fast moving the Graveyard is, having issues where I stand in front of a door and it doesn't open for a solid 10 seconds is really annoying, especially when it leads to me getting hit for no reason. Still, overall, when everything works, I have no complaints, other than hearing the same 4 lines repeated over and over every 5 seconds. Like, I get I'm violating the dress code, you've said that 20 times already. Once we escape the bouncer, we finally get to see the rave up close. And just like seeing Lily outside of the glass, it's a spectacle to see the sheer scale of that thing. It's amazing that Urban Shade's only getting noise complaints as a message about, I don't know, the massive skeleton in the sky. The site is short-lived, however, as we're forced to enter the catacombs, as apparently the devs ran out of ideas. Our main enemy here is the Skelepede, which will lunge at you, dealing 30 HP if it connects. It's really easy to deal with, just move to the side and loop him. That's if the door will open. The Graveyard also has its very own shopkeeper named Wrench Jumper, who owns Club Spectrum, where for 150 trash you can buy yourself a drink and heal a little HP. Or you can buy the party special, but since I haven't gotten to that point, I don't really know what it gives. But with that said, we reach the end, with the door to the surface just in sight, and god damn it. Now, even deeper below, we need to rely on our flashlight to deal with the hordes of candle bearers, which, fun fact, were actually introduced as a Graveyard exclusive entity before making the jump to the main black site, which I know most of you probably already know, but I found it neat. This section is overall my favorite from the Graveyard. It's so tense having to rely on a flashlight with very limited charge, needing you to constantly shake it to keep the lights on, and hearing the tens of heavy footsteps moving all around you as you navigate the dark trying to find the right doors. It's just such a fun and haunting segment, and I honestly wish they just grabbed this and plopped it into the main game instead of being a one-room encounter. And at the end of this segment, we need to scale a massive looping staircase as we hear the candle bearers below crashing around as we finally reach the surface once more, with a beeline directly to the church. Unfortunately for us, the bouncer catches back up and brings more this time, but it's no issue as we very quickly find the church we're looking for and climb up the rafters and out to the bell tower where DJ Skeletoons, the host of the Graveyard, begins scaling it beside us as we run from a bouncer behind us, eventually making it to the top where we get a cutscene of the player powering down the Graveyard. Urban Shade then congratulates us and sends a helicopter to come collect us, bringing the Graveyard to an end. And honestly, I give this a 7 out of 10. It's a great Halloween edition and has a really unique vibe and great entities, but it's only held back by a few issues that annoyed me as I played, and the headache the bouncer gave me while editing. And finally, Endless, and while I would love to give a full review like the other two, I'm already like weeks behind schedule, and how demanding real life is right now, I just don't have the time to sink hours into finding everything I can like the other game modes. From what I can tell, it's just a really insane test of skill, so for those who are interested, I recommend giving it a try. Could be fun. Okay, so I was ready to end the video here, but turns out I actually missed the game mode entirely because it's hidden in a little corner at the very, very bottom of the lobby. To find it, you need to go down these stairs, hop in an elevator, and go to the right until you find this fuck-ass blue Freddy. Interacting with him leads you to the game mode, Free Nights at the Black Site, an April Fool's FNAF fan game using pressure characters. And after a full playthrough, it's surprisingly fun. The first night has us dealing with Angler, Sebastian, and Painter. Angler will flicker the lights and run to your doors, pretty much taking the Foxy role. Just close the doors when they come by and you're good. Sebastian is our camera enemy who will make his way through the black site and towards our office via the vents. To prevent this, you need to find him on the cameras and flash him, resulting in Sebastian yelling out, which is absolutely hilarious. I also love all the renders of him because they didn't have to put this much effort into an April Fool's update, but he's surprisingly hard to spot and is always posed in a really cool way. And lastly for tonight is Painter, who will place pop-up ads on your screen periodically. You can click on the screen despite this, but it's best just remove them ASAP so they don't just clutter everything. The artwork's also really cool, like credits to whoever the artist was, these are all really good. And of course, it's not a FNAF fan game without a phone guy, who, while charming, is surprisingly easy to accidentally mute mid-call, so I just didn't hear his entire phone call at all, so whoopsies. Night 2 introduces Frogger, Blitz, and the Crooked. Frogger will do the exact same thing as the Angler, except they will loop back around after a few seconds. And just like the main game, Blitz is just a faster Angler. The Crooked will appear on either of your side cameras in 4 phases, slowly approaching the office until he's right at your door, where we shut it for 2 to 3 seconds and he vanishes. And I can't lie, they fit the gameplay loop really well, and it creates a really tight just mess of mechanics through Night 3, which sadly doesn't add anything new, and when we beat it, we get a solid $40. There's also the custom night, and...
Bruh. But, hello, bruh. It's me, Jumbo Josh, bruh.
yeah, I ain't touching that. But with that said, the hour-long Pressure video comes to an end. Last year, I saw all the hype around Pressure and started playing it myself, but I was never too into the actual game itself, and more so the story and characters, which is why I dedicated a full segment to both Sebastian and Painter, whose plushie I'm actively looking for by the way, so if you're not selling at an insane price, hit me up on Twitter or Discord, links below. The Worst Away update, despite this being only 1/4 of the planned content, has me feeling like I'm back in 2014 watching FNAF develop in real time. I haven't felt so attached to a world outside of maybe Poppy and Subnautica in a long time. And Pressure gives me that all too familiar, I like this a lot feeling. The devs have obviously put so much time and effort into developing a world that feels lived in, that has all these unique monsters and so many unique concepts that you can just delve into it for hours. And I am eagerly awaiting to find out what more the Black Site has in store for these next few updates. And who knows, if there's enough to talk about, I might even make a follow-up video talking about all the new content. From what I've seen, there's some changes to how rooms generate, new entity designs that I absolutely adore, but I could just talk on and on, so I'm gonna leave it there. So without any further ado, I've been Core, thank you to my channel members for supporting me, and thank you for watching this video. This took a lot more time and effort than my usual content, because Pressure is just so in-depth and there's so much to go over. So if you could drop a like and subscribe for all my hard work, that'd be great. And I hope to see you in whatever I make next. Bye bye!